Hey, it is Zennial Gamer, and today we are not talking about Spiritual Realm. So guys, just a quick note before we jump into today's video. I am actually back now streaming on YouTube, and I would ask you guys all, if you're enjoying the video content, please remember to smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, help motivate me to start getting more videos out on a consistent basis, welcome me back to YouTube, whatever shameless plug I have to do, but I honestly really appreciate it if you guys subscribe and help promote the video for the algorithm. With that said, today's video is gonna be about good takes and bad takes from the update. So what exactly does this mean? Well, this means I have heard a lot of people, between asking questions on stream or in Discord or game chat, whatever the case may be, who have different opinions on what is good or bad of the update. And it seems like the prevailing consensus is a lot more complaints than positive. I think that's fair for anybody to have their own opinion. I'm not going to try and tell people to change their minds. The reality is we're all gamers, and we all want something that most developers can't give. And I've got my own complaints. A couple of these will come in this video as well. But I want to open this up by saying that this is probably the largest QOL update that we have seen, and I'm okay with giving them a week or two to get things right. I mean, this is a massive game. It's many gigabytes of code. It's 9 years old, and they did a massive, massive overhaul, much of which is going to greatly benefit us, the players, over the long term. Now, you can debate whether or not there are other things that should have been done first, and we're going to talk about those in the video. But keep in mind, they took out a lot of the tedium of this game in this last update, and that lays the groundwork for future updates. And so yeah, if there's a couple of glitches or a couple of things that need to be smoothed out, I'm okay with giving them a couple of weeks or a month until we get the next second part of the big update that we don't even know what's coming before passing final judgment. So, number one, drop rates in the Abyssal Dungeons are too low. This may be the single most common thing I'm hearing. Number 3 and number 4 tie in together. Number 3 is that it is harder to get grinds now, and number 4 is that it is too slow to get gems. So, R5 now drops grinds for fight runes, determination runes, enhance runes, tolerance runes. Bunch of rune sets we don't care about. That's true. It drops grinds for 5 more rune sets, but you know what it doesn't drop? It doesn't drop gems for 17 rune sets. So, although you will get more grind drops for the set that you're not looking for, you no longer get cluttered with all of those flat HP energy gems that you were just selling anyway. The reality is that you should be able to get grinds at about the same pace as before. They dropped 17 sets, they added in 5, but grinds and gems don't drop at the same rate. Usually you drop 3 or 4 grinds for every gem at least. So if they added in, if they took out about 3.5 times as much as they added in, the drop rate for grind should be about the same. Conversely, the drop rate for gems is astronomically higher. I know it takes 2 minutes to run a dungeon in a Rift Beast or whatever the number is. That's going to get faster in time, by the way, guys. I'm already hearing some suggestions on how to speed that up, but let's just keep it at 2 minutes. That means it takes 4 times longer to run a dungeon that's dedicated to drop the gem that you need on a 1 in 5 rate, as opposed to spending 30-second runs, but realistically when there were 17 sets, the gem you needed was 1 in 17, but the gem drop was 1 in 20. So it was like 1 in 340 that you would actually get a gem for the set you needed, and then there's 8 or 10 different gems. So it was like 3,500 runs in R5 on average to get a single gem that you would need. Now it's going to be a fraction of that because it's a 1 in 4 or a 1 in 5 drop for the set that you need, which means it's 1 in 50 instead of 1 in 3,500 to get what you need. So getting gems is astronomically simpler. Number 5, evolution is too expensive. But you know what evolution is also now? 1 billion times better. Oh, I mean, it was so tedious to go through and run all your 2-star Rainbow Mon to 3-star and your 3-star Rainbow Mon to 4-star and then eventually run out of Rainbow Mon and actually have to level up 1 and 2 and 3-star fodder. It was the most tedious part of the game, and it was 10 times worse when you were doing fusion. And even just down to the fact that you could only feed 5 things at a time, it was absolutely one of my least favorite things in the game, and it's gone. It's completely gone. It's a billion times better. Number 6, AI is still bad. Yep, AI is still bad. But here's the take that a lot of you will really disagree with me on. AI should be bad. AI should not be changed. I know everybody's been calling for it for years. But you know what happens when you get perfect AI? You have Trikaru. And you know what happens when you have Trikaru? You build one dungeon team and you never build another one. You build one siege defense and you never build another one. You build one arena defense. Part of the challenge of this game is actually figuring out ways to make things work even when AI is bad. Because if AI were perfect or configurable, we would do things once and never do it again. And while it may be frustrating to watch your Lucian derp, I mean it is, and it may be frustrating to build an awesome siege defense and watch it derp, it is, the game wouldn't function if it didn't work that way. We wouldn't still be playing 9 years later because we would have already done everything there was to do. So sometimes the things that frustrate us, because this is something that's frustrating, are also necessary evils in order for the game to survive. If the game had perfect AI, people get bored. Like when Trikaru came out, it was amazing. We were all super excited. And after a while, farming became the worst thing ever. There was no excitement in it whatsoever. You used to get excited when you got a good rune. Not anymore, you don't even look at them. And it's just one of those things where like we have to accept some RNG in the game. It's frustrating as all get out. I hate RNG. My goal in this game is to minimize RNG. But if there were no RNG, there'd be no game. Because whoever had the fastest runes would always win. Whoever had the second fastest runes would always be second. It's kind of the same thing with AI. It just unfortunately has to be how it is. But even if they were more expensive, it would be worth it. And that brings us to number 8. Artifact conversion cost is insane. Yes, it is! Oh my god, that is such a bad change. Come to us. If you're watching this, I have defended you for 1 through 7. I have been on your side for 1 through 7, but fix that now. Please fix it now. Number 9, they should have fixed Siege first. So, Siege is massively broken, and it's only gotten worse in the last 6 months. It's been getting worse for a long time, but it's gotten worse and worse broken in the last 6 months, and they're losing a lot of their high-end players, a lot of their whales, and a lot of their endgame players because they keep breaking Siege more and more. I have no idea if Com2Us realizes this or cares, but I will say that in order for Siege to succeed, not only do we need to fix it, but we need an influx of more players in the game, and we need more players to be interested in Siege. And so, while Siege desperately needs to be fixed, I can buy that this particular update, which lays the groundwork for the future and lays the groundwork for us to bring new players into the game, I can buy this update was worth doing before fixing Siege. I just hope the Siege fixes are coming soon. Number 10, they should have added search by name monster in all areas of the game. I'll tell you what, nobody said this but me, but this is the biggest fail in this update. Bro, we have needed this for so freaking long. Early game players don't really care. If you've got 200 or less 6 stars, and especially if you've got 100 or less 6 stars, it's not a big deal. And that means it doesn't impact a large portion of the player base. So, to be fair, if I'm going to say that it was okay for them to lay the groundwork of the game before fixing Siege, I would have to make that same comment here. However, it is beyond frustrating to sit there and look for 3 or 4 minutes for every monster. It makes you not want to play the game, and it can be so difficult to find a monster in a box of 789 6 stars like I have right now. But the worst part of it is they've already coded this feature. So the only reason I say this should have come in this update is because they already coded the feature in, but then they only put it in a single space or a single part of the game, which was in the monster collection search. The code exists, just copy and paste. Obviously that's not how coding works, but I'm just saying this change should have been in the update. That's my addition. Nobody else has said anything about it. Okay, number 11, they didn't add a pity system. This is a complicated one, and this is another one where I think some of you will disagree with me, which is totally okay, but I'd ask you to hear me out, hear out my reasons, and then wait to the end of this video when I talk about the things I'd like added, because I will be addressing the pity system there as well. All right, more Chung has been a thing for 2 years this month. How do I know that? Because it was the 7th anniversary when they brought out the 7-year scrolls, and people were instantly able to make whatever comps they wanted because they were able to get the exact 5 stars that they needed. 7-year scrolls had a massive and negative impact on the game. 7-year scrolls are part of what got a lot of people to quit because it took diversity and strategy to a lower level within the game, and it kind of launched the trajectory of a very long period of adding more RNG in the game to try and balance things out. People lost interest. I still will stand by, I think 7-year scrolls were the biggest mistake that Com2uS ever made. And while some people may disagree, you will notice that 8 and 9-year scrolls were very different than 7-year scrolls. So I can't be the only one who thinks that. If we had a pity system, there are a couple of major issues. The first issue is that the pity system is wanted most, well, it's wanted by everybody. It's wanted by everybody. But in particular, many of the people I hear most vocal about it are people who have played this game for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and have no LD5s or have one garbage LD5. And man, you got a point. That sucks. You deserve, at that point, you deserve, if you've been playing this game on a daily basis for 6 years, you deserve to have gotten something better. I'm not going to deny that. The problem with a pity system is that it will benefit the whales. And you take a player who is whaling on the game, who's now getting that same pity system, but summoning 10 times as much as you, and yeah, you get 1 LD5, but the whale gets 10. And your 1 LD5 could still be crap, but in their 10, they've got a much better chance of getting an OP1. And so then, have you actually caught up, or have you fallen further behind? That is the real issue with the pity system, is that it benefits the highest spenders. In a lot of ways, it's kind of surprising that Com2uS has resisted adding the pity system because it would promote more spending. But with that said, I do think, and I've said this for a long time, I do think that something needs to be done to balance it out to where a system is put in place that the whales are not disproportionately benefited, but people who have dedicated years of playing this game are not completely screwed either. Number 12, this update did not address the influx of RNG that has happened over the past 2 years. This is an RNG-based game. It will always be an RNG-based game. It has to be, by its nature, by its genre, and in order to maintain any semblance of balance, and in order to keep it less pay-to-win than it's become, because I used to call this a pay-to-play game, and it still is mostly pay-to-play, but it has definitely been shifting to pay-to-win over the past year, and it is going to continue to shift in that direction, I would assume. But for right now, to maintain us as much as possible at pay-to-play and not entirely pay-to-win, RNG is necessary. Because without Vioprocs, the person who's fastest would always win. Things like that. So what I'll say to this is, realistically, if you're building a house, you have to build the foundation first. And if the house is breaking down, then you have to fix the foundation first. And this update, again, think of it as them building the framework for the next 9 years, or the next 5 years, or 3 years, or whatever it is. They were laying the groundwork, laying the foundation, so that we can start to hopefully bring some new players in and retain some earlier and mid-game players and bring back some older players by removing a lot of the tedium in the game and trying to make it fun instead of a job. So I think a lot in this update had to happen, and I'm okay with it happening first because that helps to bring in a player base to support the development of the game to then go back and fix some of these other issues. I just hope that we're going to see some changes to the direction we've been going with RNG, to where the game is not overwhelmed by RNG, but just incorporates that amount of RNG that's necessary by definition. Number 13, they didn't add in any new content. So the thing is, this is a game with 500,000, give or take, people that play it on at least a somewhat consistent basis. And among those people, you have everybody from the casual players that log in once a week, twice a week, once a month, to the hardcore players that are living on the game 14, 16 hours a day, and everything in between. And the thing is, it's really difficult to build a game that works for all of those different play styles and amounts of time and dedication and spend and everything else. New content is awesome for hardcore engaged players. We're excited for new content. We want something new to do because we've done everything else in the game a billion times. But it's overwhelming for casual players, and we've seen that reaction to some of the changes they've tried to make in the past, where it just becomes too much for casual players and it drives them away. And we need as many players as we can to make this game successful. So the foundation that was laid in this update, by removing so much of the tedium and so many of the chores, I think that opens doors up in the future for them to make existing content better, more dynamic, or more engaging, and possibly to add in new content in the future. But I think I agree with the developers' video live stream that they put out, that it makes a lot of sense to me that they would do this before adding in new content. And while that may disappoint many of the people who were engaged enough with Summoner's War to actually be watching this video, it probably made the 400,000 people that were feeling overwhelmed happy. And from a business standpoint, that was probably more important for the long-term health and survivability of Summoner's War. Okay, so now let's talk about what I hope will be coming out in Reloaded, Part 2, and what I hope will be coming out in QOL or other patches in the months following that.